He thought he was alone on the ship, until the alien princess showed up in his quarters, the ghost in the engine room. The Whisper's edge groaned like a dying animal, its hull creaking against the vacuum of space. Captain Jonas Cade sat in the mess hall, eating reconstituted protein paste from a foil pouch, trying not to think about how the silence had become a companion he both craved and feared. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since the cosmic radiation storm had fried the navigation array and forced the emergency evacuation. 3 weeks since he'd waved goodbye to his crew from the airlock, insisting someone had to stay with the ship until salvage arrived. 3 weeks of perfect, suffocating solitude. That's what he told himself he wanted. Jonas scraped the last of his meal into the recycler and headed toward the engine room for his nightly systems check. The ship's emergency lighting cast everything in amber shadows, and his boots echoed against the metal grating. He'd been a freight hauler for 6 years now, ever since leaving the Colonial Defense Forces. Ever since Meridian Station. He didn't like to think about Meridian Station. The engine room hatch hissed open, and Jonas stepped inside, datapad in hand. Temperature readings normal, oxygen recycling at 70%, fuel cells holding steady, everything exactly as it should be. A scraping sound made him freeze. It came from behind the coolant tanks, a soft shuffling that definitely wasn't mechanical. Jonas's hand moved instinctively to the plasma pistol at his hip. "Identify yourself." "This is a restricted vessel." Silence. Then movement. She emerged from the shadows like something from a fever dream. A woman, at least humanoid, with skin the color of twilight amethyst that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. Her hair fell in dark waves around her shoulders, and her eyes were large and luminous, catching the amber emergency lights like mirrors. She wore a torn thermal suit several sizes too large, and her feet were bare against the cold floor. She raised her hands slowly, palms out. "Please, I mean no harm." Jonas kept his weapon trained on her, his mind racing. "Who the hell are you? How did you get on my ship?" "My name is Lissa." Her voice was soft but steady, with an accent he couldn't place. "I've been here for 5 weeks, hiding." 5 weeks? Jonas's grip tightened on the pistol. "That's impossible. We do full cargo sweeps before every... Your cargo bay has 47 shipping containers. I was in container 23. The one marked for medical supplies to the outer colonies." Her eyes never left his. "I had no choice." Jonas studied her, the faint luminescence of her purple skin, the way she held herself with both fear and dignity. "Not human. Definitely not human. You're a stowaway." "I'm a survivor." Lisa's voice hardened slightly. "And before you decide what to do with me, you should know. The radiation storm that damaged your ship? That wasn't an accident. The secrets in the starlight." Jonas didn't lower his weapon. "What do you mean, not an accident?" Lissa took a careful step forward, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. "The storm was artificially generated. A pulse weapon designed to disable ships without destroying them. They wanted to strand you here in this sector." She paused, her luminous eyes searching his face. "They're looking for me." "Who's looking for you?" "The Dominion Collective. Mercenaries. Bounty hunters." She wrapped her arms around herself, and Jonas noticed she was trembling. Whether from cold or fear, he couldn't tell. "Anyone willing to collect the price on my head." Jonas finally lowered the pistol, though he kept it in his hand. "And what exactly makes you worth hunting across the stars?" Lisa hesitated, then reached up and pulled back the collar of her thermal suit. Along her collarbone, faint patterns glowed beneath her purple skin, intricate geometric designs that pulsed softly with bioluminescence. "I am Lissa Varen, last daughter of the Valurian throne. My people were wiped out 8 months ago during the purge of Valura Prime." The name sparked recognition. Jonas had heard rumors, fragmented news reports about a moon colony destroyed in political upheaval. The reports said there were no survivors. The reports were designed to stop people from searching. Her hand dropped, and the glowing patterns faded back beneath her skin. "But I escaped, and now the Syndicate wants me dead because of what I carry in my blood." Jonas holstered his weapon and leaned against the coolant tank, processing. "What's in your blood?" "A genetic sequence. Ancient Valurian bioengineering." She met his gaze directly. "My ancestors modified our DNA to terraform worlds, to heal radiation damage, to survive in hostile environments. In the right hands, that knowledge could save millions. In the wrong hands..." She didn't finish the sentence. It could create weapons. Jonas finished for her. Lissa nodded. The ship shuddered slightly, and Jonas glanced at his datapad. We need to get the navigation system back online. If what you're saying is true, we're sitting ducks out here. I can help, Lissa said quickly. I've been monitoring your repair attempts from the maintenance crawlways. You're trying to bypass the damaged circuits, but you're routing through the wrong junction. Jonas raised an eyebrow. You know ship systems? I spent 3 years training as a colonial engineer before I was called back to the throne. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. My father believed royalty should know how to build, not just rule. For the first time since finding her, Jonas felt something other than suspicion. All right, show me. They worked side by side for the next 2 hours, Lissa guiding him through a series of bypass procedures that were far more elegant than his brute force attempts. She was right about the junction, and her fingers moved with practiced confidence as she rewired circuits. Why stay hidden for 5 weeks? Jonas asked as he held a panel open for her. Why not reveal yourself when the crew was still aboard? Lissa didn't look up from her work. Because the syndicate has infiltrators everywhere. The fewer people who knew I was here, the safer I was. She paused. When I heard the evacuation order, I thought I'd made a mistake. That I'd be stranded alone. But then you stayed? I had my reasons, Jonas said quietly. She glanced at him then, really looked at him, and he felt exposed under that luminous gaze. You're running from something too. It wasn't a question. Before Jonas could respond, the navigation console sparked to life. Lissa pulled back with a satisfied smile. There. Long-range sensors should be online in a few minutes. Jonas moved to the console, relief washing over him. But as the sensors initialized, his relief turned to ice. 3 ships. Closing fast from the outer rim. Military-grade signatures, Lissa, he said slowly. How much time did you think we had? She was already at his shoulder, staring at the screen. The purple glow of her skin seemed to brighten with stress. Less than I hoped. The proximity alarm began to wail. Hunted among the stars. How long until they're in weapons range? Lissa's voice remained steady despite the alarm shrieking through the ship. Jonas's fingers flew across the console. 18 minutes. Maybe 20 if we're lucky. He pulled up the ship's defensive systems, what little remained functional. We've got partial shields and 1 working point defense turret. Against 3 Hunter-class vessels, we might as well be throwing rocks. Lissa moved to the auxiliary station, her fingers dancing across the controls with surprising familiarity. The asteroid field, 7,000 kilometers starboard. If we can reach it, the engines are barely holding together as it is, Jonas interrupted. Full thrust could tear us apart, and staying here will definitely get us killed. She turned to face him, her purple skin glowing brighter now, reflecting her rising adrenaline. Trust me, I've done this before. Something in her eyes, determination mixed with old fear, made Jonas nod. All right, but you're co-piloting. Get to the navigation station. They raced to the bridge together, the ship shuddering as Jonas pushed the engines beyond safe parameters. Lissa slid into the co-pilot's seat, her hands moving instinctively across the controls. For a moment watching her work, Jonas forgot she was royalty. She was just a woman fighting to survive, same as him. Pursuers adjusting course, Lissa reported. They're matching our trajectory. Let them. Jonas grinned despite the danger. They think we're running blind. They don't know we've got the best navigator in the sector. Lissa shot him a look. Flattery won't save us, Captain. Worth a try. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a chaotic maze of rock and ice spinning through the void. Jonas felt sweat bead on his forehead as the first massive chunks of stone appeared on visual. Call the angles. I need coordinates. 15 degrees port. Descending 20. Lissa's voice became a rhythm he followed, guiding them between asteroids the size of buildings. The whisper's edge groaned and protested but held together. An energy blast screamed past their port side, superheating an asteroid into glowing slag. They're firing. Jonas jerked the controls, sending them into a barrel roll that pressed them both against their restraints. There, Lissa pointed at the view screen. That cluster ahead, 3 large asteroids in close orbit. If we thread between them at the right moment, they'll have to break formation or risk collision, Jonas finished. I like the way you think. He pushed the engines harder. The gap between the asteroids looked impossibly narrow, the space between them shifting as they rotated in their gravitational dance. Behind them, the pursuing ships spread out, trying to box them in. Now, Lisa shouted. Jonas dove into the gap. Metal scraped against stone with a horrible shriek as they squeezed through. The ship's shields flared, barely holding. One of the pursuing vessels tried to follow, and misjudged. The explosion lit up the view screen as the hunter ship collided with an asteroid at full speed. 2 left. Jonas breathed, but the Whisper's edge wasn't finished paying the price. Warning lights flooded the console. Engine 2 is overheating. We can't maintain this speed. Lisa was already unbuckling. Keep them busy. I'll handle the engine. Lisa, wait. But she was already gone, racing toward the engine room. Jonas cursed and focused on flying. Weaving through the asteroid field with everything he had, another blast caught their aft shields and he felt the ship lurch. In the engine room, Lisa threw open the access panel to the overheating core. Heat washed over her like a physical blow, but she didn't hesitate. Her hands moved with precision, rerouting coolant, bypassing damaged relays. The glowing patterns on her skin blazed brighter, responding to her stress, to her determination. On the bridge, Jonas saw something on sensors that made his blood run cold. Lisa, they're charging weapons for a full volley. Whatever you're doing, done! Her voice crackled through the comm. Power surged through the ship. Jonas felt it in the controls, the responsive thrust as both engines roared to life. He pushed forward, shooting through a narrow canyon between 2 massive asteroids just as the enemy volley struck, hitting nothing but stone. Come on, Jonas muttered, spotting their exit. One more gap, one more impossible shot, and they'd be clear. He took it. The Whisper's edge burst from the asteroid field like a bullet from a barrel, leaving their pursuers tangled in the maze behind them. Lisa returned to the bridge, her face flushed, her skin still glowing faintly. She collapsed into the co-pilot's seat and Jonas reached over without thinking, placing his hand over hers. Nice flying, Princess. She didn't pull away. Nice flying yourself, Captain. Their eyes met, and in that moment something shifted between them. A recognition that went deeper than survival, deeper than circumstance. The Heart's coordinates. The ship drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, engines powered down to minimal signatures. Jonas had found the hiding spot by instinct, a gravitational dead zone where scanner beams bent and scattered, making them nearly invisible. For now, they were safe. But the engine room told a different story. It's worse than I thought, Jonas muttered, staring at the damaged coolant array. Fluid dripped steadily onto the deck plating, forming small puddles that reflected the emergency lighting. We pushed too hard getting through that field. Lisa knelt beside him, examining the damaged pipes. In the confined space, he was acutely aware of her proximity, the faint luminescence of her purple skin, the way her dark hair fell across her face as she concentrated. We can patch it temporarily, but we'll need to work together. Someone has to hold the compression seal while the other welds. Tight quarters, Jonas observed. Very. She glanced at him, something unreadable in her luminous eyes. They worked in silence at first, their bodies pressed close in the narrow maintenance corridor. Jonas held the seal in place while Lisa operated the plasma welder, her face inches from his. He could feel the warmth radiating from her skin, could see the intricate patterns that glowed beneath her purple complexion pulsing in time with her heartbeat. How does it work? He asked quietly. The bioluminescence. Lisa paused in her welding. It's tied to our emotions. Stress, fear, joy, they all make the patterns brighter. My people believed it was a gift from the stars, that we were meant to carry light into dark places. Her expression softened with sadness. My father used to say I glowed brightest when I was happy. You don't glow much anymore, Jonas said gently. I haven't had much reason to. She resumed welding, but her voice remained soft. What about you, Jonas? What are you running from? He should have deflected, should have kept his walls up. But something about her openness, her vulnerability, made him want to respond in kind. A place called Meridian Station. I was a tactical officer, Colonial Defense Forces. We received intel about an insurgent cell operating from a civilian sector. Lisa's hand stilled. The intel was wrong. Jonas continued, his voice hollow. By the time we realized it, 23 civilians were dead, including children. He closed his eyes. I gave the order to breach. I trusted the intelligence, and I was wrong. Warm fingers touched his face, and he opened his eyes to find Lisa looking at him with an expression that held no judgment, only understanding. You carry their names with you. Every single one. That's the difference between a good person and a monster. Jonas. Monsters don't remember their victims' names. Her thumb brushed across his cheek and he realized he was trembling. You're not running from what you did. You're running from your own compassion. The words cracked something open inside him. Before he could think, before he could rebuild his defenses, Jonas leaned forward and pressed his forehead against hers. They stayed like that, breathing together in the dim light, two broken people finding unexpected shelter in each other. Lisa, he whispered. Yes? I'm glad you were in container 23. She laughed softly and her skin brightened, not with stress or fear, but with something warmer. I'm glad you stayed with your ship. The welding forgotten, they moved closer. Jonas cupped her face with his hand, marveling at the warmth of her purple skin. The way the glowing patterns seemed to dance beneath his fingertips. Lissa's eyes fluttered closed as she leaned into his touch. Is this... Jonas hesitated. Is this allowed? For a princess? I'm not a princess anymore, Lissa murmured. I'm just a woman. And right now I want to be close to someone who sees me as more than a genetic key or a political symbol. Their lips met softly at first, tentative, testing, then deeper, with the urgency of two people who had spent too long alone in the dark. Lisa's fingers tangled in Jonas's hair and he wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her closer in the cramped space. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Lisa's entire body glowed with soft purple light, the patterns across her skin creating a constellation map of her emotions. She looked radiant. You're glowing, Jonas said with a smile. I told you, it responds to emotion. She touched her fingertips to his lips. I'm happy, Jonas. For the first time in months, I'm actually happy. They finished the repairs together, working with a new ease born of shared vulnerability. Later, in the small galley, they shared a meal of reconstituted rations that somehow tasted better than it had any right to. Lissa told him stories of Valura Prime, the crystal gardens, the singing towers, the festivals where her people would gather and glow together like living fireworks. Jonas told her about growing up on a mining colony, about joining the military to see the stars, about the dreams he'd abandoned after Meridian Station. Maybe, Lissa said softly, reaching across the table to take his hand. We can find new dreams, together. They're still hunting you, Jonas reminded her, though his fingers intertwined with hers. Your DNA, what it represents, is my choice to make. Her voice held steel beneath the softness. Not theirs. Not the Syndicate's, mine. She squeezed his hand. And I choose to live, Jonas, not just survive. Actually live. That night they stood together on the bridge watching the stars wheel by through the viewport. Lisa rested her head on Jonas's shoulder and he wrapped his arms around her from behind, holding her close. What do we do now? He asked. We run the coordinates, Lisa said. There's a place, a hidden colony my mother told me about. Refugees, outcasts, people who don't want to be found. If we can reach it, the proximity alarm shattered the moment. Jonas was at the console in seconds. His blood turned to ice. No, that's impossible. One ship, massive. A Syndicate dreadnought emerging from hyperspace directly above them. They found us, Lissa whispered. A new constellation, how? Jonas's fingers flew across the console, bringing systems online. We were hidden, our signature was my DNA. Lisa's voice was hollow with realization. They must have developed a biological tracker. They're not following the ship. They're following me. The dreadnought hung above them like a dark moon, its weapons arrays powering up with ominous precision. A communication request flashed on the screen. Jonas looked at Lissa. Your call. She nodded and he opened the channel. A face appeared. Sharp features, cold eyes, a uniform decorated with Syndicate insignia. Princess Varen. How convenient. Surrender yourself in the ship, and Captain Cade may yet live. Commander Vex, Lissa said, recognition and hatred mixing in her voice. You led the assault on Valura Prime. I completed a contract. Vex's smile was reptilian. As I'm about to do again. Your genetic material is worth considerably more than your life, Princess, but I'm authorized to take you either way. Jonas cut the transmission. We can't outrun a dreadnought. We can't outfight it. What options does that leave? Lissa turned to him, her skin glowing with fierce determination. 1. The patterns in my DNA, they're not just information. They're a trigger. My ancestors built safeguards into our genetic code. If I activate them, I can release an electromagnetic pulse that would disable every ship in a 10,000-kilometer radius. Including ours, Jonas said. Including ours. She met his eyes. We'd be dead in space. No engines, no life support. Maybe an hour of emergency oxygen. And then what? We suffocate together while the syndicate floats helpless? Or someone gets a distress signal? Or we repair systems before the oxygen runs out? Or, her voice broke, or we die free instead of letting them turn me into a weapon. Jonas stared at her, this woman who glowed like starlight, who had survived genocide and chosen to keep fighting. Then he smiled. I've got a better idea. How targeted can you make that pulse? Understanding dawned in Lissa's eyes. You want me to hit their ship but spare ours? Can you do it? The genetic trigger isn't designed for precision. It's meant to be a last resort, a way to deny my DNA to enemies even in death. She paused, thinking. But if I could focus it, channel it through the ship's communications array, we'd turn the Whisper's Edge into a directed energy weapon. Jonas was already moving, pulling up schematics. We route power from everything non-essential. Life support shields, even gravity. One massive burst through the comm dish aimed right at their bridge. Lissa grabbed his arm. Jonas, if this fails, then we fail together. He pulled her close, kissing her fiercely. But I didn't survive this long by giving up. And I didn't find you just to lose you to these bastards. They worked with desperate precision. Lissa positioned herself in the communications hub, her hands pressed against the transmission nodes. Jonas rerouted every ounce of power, gambling everything on one impossible shot. Vex is hailing again, Jonas called from the bridge. Ignore him. I need 2 more minutes. We might not have 2 minutes. He's moving into firing position. Lisa's skin blazed with light, the patterns across her body pulsing faster, brighter. She could feel the genetic code awakening, responding to her will. Her ancestors had designed this as a weapon of desperation. She was turning it into a weapon of hope. Ready, she shouted. Jonas aligned the communications array, targeting the Dreadnought's bridge. On your mark. For Valura, Lissa whispered. Then louder, now. She released everything, all the stored bioelectric energy, all the ancient power sleeping in her cells. It poured through her like lightning, through the ship's systems, focusing and amplifying through the communications array into a beam of pure electromagnetic fury. The Dreadnought's shields lit up, then collapsed. The beam punched through their hull plating, and every system on the massive ship went dark simultaneously. Through the viewport, Jonas could see emergency lights flickering on, could see the vessel begin to drift, powerless. The Whisper's Edge went dark too, but Jonas had planned for it. Emergency batteries kicked in, giving them minimal life support. He raced to the communications hub. Lissa lay crumpled on the floor, her skin dim, barely glowing. Jonas gathered her into his arms. Lisa, stay with me. Her eyes fluttered open. Did it work? You magnificent woman. You knocked out a dreadnought with a cargo freighter. She managed a weak smile. My father would have been proud. Jonas carried her to the bridge, laying her gently in the co-pilot's seat while he worked frantically to restart core systems. Minutes crawled by. The dreadnought remained dark, drifting. Then miraculously the engines coughed to life. Got it. Jonas programmed coordinates. The hidden colony Lissa had mentioned, their one chance at sanctuary. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the disabled dreadnought behind, Lissa's skin began to glow again, gradually returning to its normal luminescence. We made it, she whispered. Jonas took her hand. We made it. 3 weeks later, the Whisper's Edge limped into the refuge, a hidden station built into an asteroid, home to thousands who had fled oppression, war, or persecution. As they docked, Lissa squeezed Jonas's hand. New dreams, she said softly. New dreams, he agreed. They walked off the ship together, into a future neither had expected, but both chose freely. Behind them, the Whisper's Edge powered down, its journey complete. Above them, through the transparent dome of the refuge, stars glittered like promises waiting to be kept. Lisa's skin glowed softly, steadily, the glow of happiness, of hope, of love found in the darkest reaches of space. And Jonas, for the first time since Meridian Station, felt the weight of guilt begin to lift. They had both been running, Now finally they could stop. Together they could build something new among the stars, not a kingdom, not a military career, but a life. Their own constellation drawn by choice rather than fate, and that, they both agreed, was worth fighting for.